Like, what?
Diddy has been accused by well over 100 people of
It's kind of crazy, bro, how he only got 4 years. When he gets out, bro, he's gonna make a super villain. I don't like sweets other than you. You'd
committing violent and exploitative crimes to victims as young as 9 years old over the course of 3 decades. Not only has he repeatedly gotten away with it,
Turk, Kato, was Diddy as relevant when you guys were growing up as he was when we were? Like, you guys were like high school, middle school? Did you guys like oh, Diddy's playing? Because like for example, for us, like Diddy wasn't really relevant in the music way. He was relevant in the fact that he was an OG. With Tupac, was all around all the rappers, the famous people. We didn't really know him for music back then. I'd say later on for music, you were like, oh shit, this P Diddy song's on. Like, has anyone ever been like, oh shit, this new P Diddy album? Oh, the P Diddy's on. Let's get in the club. Like I don't know any of his music. You know, with Puff Daddy. He makes me. Yeah, he's a rapper.
After the most recent allegations have come to light and gotten him arrested and charged, he was sentenced to just...
He was a rapper that was friends with Tupac and Biggie.
4 years in prison, despite the gravity of his crimes and the number of victims. How could this be possible? How did it get to this point? Well, to understand that, you need to see the full criminal history of Sean Combs, or Diddy. The earliest tie to criminality in Diddy's life is found not in his own actions, but that
says he killed Tupac. I don't think he killed Tupac. I think for a fact, know that he is directly linked and involved in both Tupac and Biggie's death in different ways. As far as spreading rumors, as far as setting people up, as far as not warning people, as far as not calling the police, as far as not informing people, he was definitely a Judas to both Tupac and Biggie.
Of his father, Melvin Earl Combs, an airman who was on a first-name basis with the infamous drug lord Frank Lucas, on whom the movie American Gangster was based. Of course, the details of their association are left to speculation, as Melvin didn't live long enough to be part of any legal...
There's been several rappers that, like Eminem said he did it, a couple other rappers have said the past that Diddy had stuff to do with it.
Proceedings, being shot dead when Diddy was a little kid. An incident that's been widely speculated to be related to organized crime. Whatever happened there, it's quite possible that Diddy was intent on following in his father's footsteps, as from his early 20s, there are many instances of Diddy being involved in criminal situations. When he was in his early 20s, he started working for Uptown Records as a talent director, which is a detail about his life that has since been reinterpreted in the light of his most recent scandals.
And that's true too.
We're going to return to this topic later when we cover the accusations against him, but there's always been stereotypes of talent directors having their prospects do inappropriate things in exchange for opportunities. This gets a tad bit more concerning when you learn that R&B singer Usher was living with Diddy when he was 13 years old, when Diddy was about 22. In an interview he gave before the Diddy scandal came to light, Usher said this:
I moved to New York City. It was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at.
What?
It was pretty wild.
You guys didn't know that? Diddy has crazy fucked up lore.
Wow,
so nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Additionally, in a very strange stream interview,
I don't stay up on a lot of things, to be honest. I mean, this happened when we were babies, we're not even born yet, so...
Usher and Kevin Hart, Diddy folded under zero pressure and offered up bizarre information about him wrestling with Usher.
Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes, you know what I'm saying, before pause was invented, you know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get up early with me. Now he's one of the richest stars in the world. And I love him.
Coincidentally, in this same year, Diddy held a celebrity basketball game and concert at a college to fundraise for AIDS-related charities, and it ultimately led to a stampede that killed 9 people and injured another
29
due to the poor organization of the event. The lawsuit that resulted from this took 7 years to come to an end, but eventually
no, we're not even at the Justin Bieber part of the lore yet.
Diddy had to pay over $500,000. 4 years after this incident, Diddy had already left Uptown Records and started his own record label, Bad Boy Records, which was his vector to immense wealth and fame, and increasingly severe crimes. In 1995, 2 bodyguards he had hired to protect one of his artists, Mary J. Blige, assaulted a man so violently he had to undergo 3 surgeries and have 7 screws inserted in his leg, rendering him
in Winston-Salem, North Carolina,
temporarily unable to walk without crutches. In the same year, Diddy was at a college again. What is it with this guy in colleges? When an employee asked him to leave, prompting Diddy to threaten him, asking him when his shift was over, and flashing his gun. Interestingly enough, the
crazy out of college
with the bodyguards initially led to the victim of the crime being awarded nearly $2.5 million.
Damn! Combs paid Lemon 2.4. Oh my God.
Only for the lawsuit to be then overturned, and the college employee simply dropping his charges against Diddy for unknown reasons. Clearly, there was something shady about these situations, and even if he wasn't a criminal initially, the money and the fame emboldened Diddy to act this way. Within a year of these crimes, he once again threatened someone with a gun, this time a photographer for the New York Post. But he managed to get away with it, only paying a $1,000 fine.
God damn!
I'm sure these things were covered by the media at the time. It was absolutely overshadowed by the sheer volume of attention he was getting, thanks to one of his main artists, Biggie. Between 1995 and 1997, which is right around when Biggie was at the peak of his popularity, there was a big hiatus of negative media coverage about Diddy. But in late 1997, he's reported to have been involved in a lawsuit with his former tenants, as the property she was renting from him was instantly infested with insects, rodents, and vermin.
Bro, dude was always the hustler though, being a tenant, a record label, rapper, like damn.
In the same article where this is talked,
it's always like these people who are like, they have insane work ethics and like insane, like, you know, business minds, entrepreneurial attitudes, stuff like this, and lots of capital to play with, obviously, too, that are always the most evil, bro. They always have like these like evil side habits of like, obviously, Diddy being a sexual predator and pedophile and like abusers. Like, what the fuck?
There's a mention of a recent legal problem of Diddy's involving bribery and weapons, although I'm not sure what specifically this is in reference to. 2 years later, however, there is a clear-cut case of assault involving him and an executive of Interscope Records, Steve Stout. According to an article by the LA Times, Diddy had recently done a cameo in a music video where he was being crucified.
It's like I don't know, it's weird as fuck. I don't get it.
The version of the video where Diddy appears crucified actually ended up being lost media for 23 years until it leaked online in 2022. After the video was edited and approved, Diddy changed his mind and no longer wanted it to be included, but that version was briefly aired by mistake. The first thing that happened was an angry call from Diddy, and about 10 minutes later, he was caught on CCTV on the 6th floor of Universal Records, charging into Steve Stout's office along with 2 or 3 other bodyguards, proceeding to beat Steve with a telephone, punching, kicking, and even throwing a chair at him at one point. Steve is on the record saying, "1 minute I'm in the middle of a meeting, and the next minute I'm down on the floor, and Puffy and his guys are kicking and pounding me. I don't really mean to make light of this situation."
They cracked him,
but given that this is Diddy, I'd say Steve is lucky that the pounding only involved regular violence. Diddy turns himself in and was arrested on charges of felony assault and criminal mischief, although he paid his bail at $15,000 and was immediately free again. One of the bodyguards did the same 2 weeks later, but another wasn't caught. This case in specific did manage to get the attention of the media, not just because of the high-profile victim, but also because Biggie had already died. And to some extent, Diddy had acquired a lot of negative reputation for trying to forcibly insert himself, into Biggie's music. Even posthumously, by just mumbling random things in the background of songs. I can't play it here because it will 100% get copyright claimed, but if you go listen to any of Biggie's songs, you'll probably catch the occasional "Take That" and "What You Want to Do" in the background. He was the original DJ Khaled, basically. During the case's developments, an associate of Diddy's accused Steve of extortion, claiming that this lawsuit had the intention of taking money from Diddy, to which he said, "I never asked Puffy for $12 million or..."
If we had to go handle business and beat someone up, would you guys go with me and like Like we go jump somebody.
50 million.
Like,
I
it's
don't
just
even know
handling
what he's
business.
talking about. I see Diddy as a gangster in the music business. Everybody is afraid of him. This is a guy who cries about his
100%.
friend Biggie publicly and promotes peace, but he has a dark history. Despite the obvious severity of these claims, within 2 months of the attack taking
Say
place,
less.
Steve and Diddy settled out of court, with Diddy paying him,
No, we got
quote,
lawyers.
producer and management fees worth $500,000. While the settlement didn't immediately put an end to the criminal proceedings against Diddy, Steve had no intention of pressing charges, and Diddy was looking to reduce his charges from felony to misdemeanor, which, given his litigious successes so far, wouldn't be surprising. But the thing about violent criminals is that they tend to reoffend, especially when they get released with a slap.
Bro, low key has been a piece of shit for a long time. And it's only the things he got caught for. Imagine all the shit he got away with. Because people got away with a lot more shit back in the day, bro. Really did. Like, holy fuck.
On the wrist. To the shock of no one, just 4 months after the settlement, Diddy was once again tangled up in a criminal act. At nearly 3 a.m. in a club in New York, Diddy and one of his artists, Shine, also known as Jamal Burrows, were arguing with unnamed people when allegedly someone threw a stack of money at Diddy, prompting him and Jamal to pull out their guns. Multiple gunshots ensued,
That's
and 3
crazy.
people were injured, with one of them being a woman who was shot in the face. Diddy ultimately faced no charges, while Jamal had 3 counts of attempted murder and criminal possession of a weapon. While Diddy was cleared of the charges related to the club shooting, when the cops picked him up, he had an unrelated firearm in his car, which he did catch a possession charge for. Initially, it looked like he was going to have an easy time getting away
That's
with it,
crazy.
but as this case was taken to
That
trial,
guy, do you guys think that guy definitely took the charge for Diddy?
Diddy was then accused of lying in his testimony to a grand jury and trying to bribe a witness, actively behaving as if he was above the law. Here, we also have another mention of an obscure previous case of illegal weapon possession from 1997, and details of how Diddy tried to get rid of evidence by throwing guns out of the window and offering $50,000 to his bodyguard if he took responsibility for the firearm. Jamal stood to get up to 25 years in prison, while Diddy and his bodyguard
That's
could
crazy.
get 15 for the guns and 7 for bribery. This case went on for 2 years, but eventually Jamal was found guilty of 5 of his 8 charges. But Diddy and his bodyguard were exonerated. Again, how does he keep
Damn.
getting away with this? Well, it's because to many people, including other rappers
Wonder
and
his
former
lawyer
associates
is.
of Diddy's, it looks like Diddy threw Jamal under the bus. According to Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, and I emphasize here that this is a wild claim, right before his final trial date, Diddy performed some kind of ritual animal sacrifice involving a Bible, sage, and the killing of a white bird. Jamal has since
What
made
the
public
fuck?
comments on the result of this trial, where he said, "When I was an 18-year-old kid, just wanting to do nothing other than make my mother proud and make Belize proud, and do what all of us want to do, be recognized for our talent and take over the world, I was defending him, and he turned around and called witnesses to testify against me."
Wait, so even the guy who actually went to jail, Jamal, for the shooting, said that he didn't do it, was set up. Johnny Knoxville to host? Dude, we are so back. Dude, the world is healing, Chad. 2026, we might have a chance. That's huge. I love Johnny Knoxville.
He pretty much sent me to prison. That is the context by which you must always describe that relationship. Yes, I forgave, I moved on, but let's not pretend as if I was in Miami for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Let us not lose sight of what the cold, hard facts are. This is not someone who I vacationed with, and who he and I enjoyed this great, intimate relationship of brotherhood. This is someone who destroyed my life, and who I forgave, and who I moved on from. Despite this life-destroying event, it does seem that Jamal did well for himself, as he has since converted to Judaism, got deported to Belize, and abandoned the music industry to become a politician. You could give me 1,000
That's
chances to guess
crazy.
how this guy's
That's actually crazy how his life has changed. Signed to P. Diddy in America for a while, shot somebody in a club, went to jail for 25 years, became a Jewish, got deported back to Belize, and now he's a lawyer.
life turned out, and I wouldn't have gotten it right. But it turns out his dad was the first black prime minister of Belize, so I guess it's not that crazy. But going back to Diddy, he wasted no time in going back to committing crimes, despite how close he got to a life-changing sentence for the club shooting incident. In 2001, literally a single month after his not guilty sentence, he was arrested in Florida for driving with a suspended license. Diddy's never-ending crime spree continues unabated throughout the early 2000s. Never does 1 year go by by without this guy getting sued or arrested. In 2002, he breached contract for a property he
2026, bro. January is gonna be a good fucking month.
leased for a music video, damaging the walls, floors, and furniture to the tune of nearly $40,000. But the case was mysteriously discontinued. In 2003, the co-founder of his record label alleged Diddy and his lawyer entered his office with a baseball bat and threatened him into giving up his stake in the company. But this was also thrown out. In the same year, Diddy
That's
also got in
crazy.
serious trouble as his clothing line, Sean John, employed the services of a Honduran sweatshop in order to produce their products. Although I do pride myself
Doesn't Nike do that same shit?
on my norms there, and Diddy was significant wisdom. Even I was too young to remember this. But in the 2000s, there was a significant cultural movement against sweatshops and unethical industry practices, and Diddy was one of its earliest casualties. According to one of the Honduran employees at this sweatshop, the overseers yelled and cursed at the workers, forced them to work unpaid overtime,
That's
fired
nuts.
employees for being pregnant, all while getting
So,
paid
hell
15
yeah.
cents for every $40 shirt they made, or about 65 cents to $1 an hour. This same worker also said, "We are totally slaves. We live inhumane lives." If these claims are true, their work conditions were absolutely
Damn.
unacceptable. Between regular body searches and having to get passes to go to the bathroom, it was pretty egregious stuff, and naturally, it captured the attention of the news and the
This
national
week at work. What if it was him? Like, it looked just like him or something.
Labor Committee. Diddy's response was claiming he didn't know anything about the situation, but that he was pro-worker and wanted to get it fixed as soon as possible, which was met with a positive response from the NLC. Honestly, there are very few things in this world that sound as terrifying as the concept of working at a sweatshop run by Diddy, so I'm glad the authorities started looking into this. Within 1 year of this going down, there was another lawsuit, this time between
Damn.
Diddy and one of his former chauffeurs. According to the driver, Damian Vasquez, one of Diddy's Grammys went missing, and for whatever reason, he'd become convinced that Damian was behind it, and proceeded to try and coerce him into confessing. This case is kind of nuts because if Damian is telling the truth, Diddy
That's
actually worked with a
crazy.
police officer to arrest Damian with no cause, and kept him in a holding cell for days without food. And since Damian was diabetic, this led him to lose consciousness and get sent to the emergency room. Ultimately, the
What
case
the
was dismissed
fuck?
due to lack of evidence. But there's an astronomical off chance that this guy was fully telling the truth, and that's kind of terrifying. The latter half of the 2000s is significantly less eventful, with Diddy's only legal issues involving the usage of the name Diddy being disputed by a British DJ of the same name,
DJ
to whom he had to
Diddy?
pay well over £100,000.
I'm glad that that guy dropped his name as DJ Diddy because he's been cooked now. You wild.
And another club battery that was instantly settled. There were two other minor cases, one in which Diddy's bodyguards beat up a guy who was trying to approach him, and another where Diddy was accused of assault, but the accuser did not press charges, leading to no arrests. With the frequency of his cases dwindling over time, it looks like whatever possessed Diddy to be as belligerent as he used to be was slowly leaving his body. And just maybe, he was leaving his criminal proclivities behind him. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case at all. In 2012, a man named Dexter Isaac, who had shot Tupac all the way back in 1994, claimed that he was paid to do so by James Rosemond, also known as Jimmy Henchman, a career criminal who was sought by the DEA for being connected to a drug trafficking ring. However, he's mostly
That's crazy. And he hangs out with Diddy.
known for his crimes relating to rappers, being publicly mentioned by Tupac in a song that was released posthumously as the person behind the attempt on his life. For a very long time, Henchman's involvement with the shooting was the stuff of conspiracy and speculation. But in 2012, Dexter Isaac's confession gave a resolution to it, although it also implied that Diddy had something to do with the crime. Dexter's statement read, "Now, I would like to clear up a few things, because the statute of
Edit
limitations
yourself.
is over and no one can be charged." In 1994, James Rosemond hired me to rob Tupac at the Quad Studio. He gave me $2,500 plus all the jewelry I took, except for one ring, which he wanted for himself. It was the biggest of the 2 diamond rings that we took. I still have as proof the chain that we took that night in the robbery. Jimmy, you and Diddy like to come off all innocent-like, but as the saying goes, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Mr. Rosemond, I ask you, are you going to
Damn,
flip
this
on
is
Puffy when the
deep.
feds get you to save yourself like you have done in the past? This was a pretty ominous statement, especially since it doesn't specifically name what role Diddy played in the entire situation. Given Dexter repeatedly attacks Jimmy for having cooperated with law enforcement, it's not surprising he deliberately opts to not implicate Diddy in a specific crime, even if he suggests he was involved. This revelation came as a bit of a shock, although, of course, like Dexter said, it came way too late, and the statute of limitations meant nothing could be done insofar as criminal charges go. Ultimately, the only people who really caught wind of this were a small minority of those who were invested into this kind of topic.
Damn.
So this kind of did very little in the way of changing people's public perception of Diddy.
Bro, this shit is deep,
But
chat.
after going almost a decade with no new charges related to a violent offense, Diddy returned to form. In 2015, Diddy's son was kicked out of football practice, so he did what any other reasonable dad would do. He drove to UCLA and in front of everyone else, assaulted the coach, made a bunch of threats, and then picked up a kettlebell to hit the coach with. He was facing 3 counts of felony assault with a deadly weapon,
damn.
1 count of battery, and 1 count of terrorist threats. But once again, somehow he managed to get away with it with no felony charges, alleging that picking up the kettlebell was done in self-defense. Regardless of the exact nature of this crime, this was minor, especially in comparison to the nearly decade-long crusade that was about to fire up against him. In 2017, a chef who used to work for him, Cindy Rueda, made some very strange allegations, very much unlike any of his previous criminal history. Her allegations begin by establishing that she worked from 9 a.m. to midnight, or even later than that, and still didn't get paid any overtime, which, although bad enough, gets a lot worse. Apparently, Diddy expressly had her cook for him and every one of his friends immediately after they finished up with a session of group intercourse, and they didn't even bother to put clothes on, with both.
I mean, yo, after regular sex with just one person, you know, I get hungry, so I understand. But group sex, you get yourself a meal.
Both Diddy and one of his unnamed friends actively flaunting their privates and asking her to look at them. Cindy also claimed that Diddy had a contingency plan to prevent her from speaking, where another employee would basically entrap her and get her accused of theft. And then Diddy would pressure Cindy into signing a waiver, which she didn't do. Strangely enough, this matter was quickly and quietly settled out of court, but clearly something insidious was going on behind the scenes. And this incident in 2017 set the tone for many of Diddy's future legal issues. Up until this point, Diddy had been relatively low profile, but the rumors of him being some kind of freak began having a strong resurgence, mainly through 50 Cent, who joked about Diddy being gay basically whenever he could.
It's not for me, man. You know, it's not for me. I don't go to motherfucking Buffy parties. Yeah. Hug you from the front and the back. I'm not saying it's not wrong, but I'm just saying it's just not for me.
Now, Fifth, when you continuously call Puff gay, does that affect your relationships in Hollywood?
I don't call him gay. I said,
Let me read it, Fifth.
Oh my God.
Sorry I can no longer help you guys. Soon you will all be gay and happy. You are all now left under leadership of Puffy Daddy. Report to the nearest rainbow. Dinner Thieves in theaters January 19th.
That's why he says things.
That's
he doesn't
crazy.
know what he's saying is like fruity. You know what I'm saying? Like, he says something fabulous and he goes, yo, but me and you, we ain't party. Like, we need to party. What is he talking about? That's the kind of stuff that when people say that to me, I get a little uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable. Like, he said something to me one time, a long time ago, at Chris Lighty's wedding. He told me he'd take me shopping. I looked at him like, what you just
take you shopping? Diddy being gay is so funny, bro.
say? Let me move, man, before I do something. You're gonna make me mess up the wedding.
Oh, that's a nice gesture.
Let me get out of no, dude, take me. That's what a guy says to a girl.
So we talking about rumors, right?
Yeah.
And we, you know, when you Google his name, there's a rumor that pops up that he was Diddy's boy toy.
Oh shit.
Right.
Wait, so this is
so Charlamagne said
It's not true, but I told after he brought up this stuff with you, I said, you know what 50 gonna say when he meets you?
Oh no, I don't know that was going on.
You know,
I can't wait to run into him again.
What you gonna say to him?
Puffy was playing with your booty in Miami. No wonder Puffy's touching that butt in Miami.
Yo, he's stupid.
See, he's paying those taxes. He has more money because this Miami. That's what happened.
Now, this last clip was in reference to rapper YK Osiris, who was among the artists Diddy was speculated to be interacting with. Another one was Meek Mill, whom Diddy posted a story of in a pool looking absolutely devastated when Diddy called him daddy. Diddy really did himself no favors, as in one interview he gave, he told one of the interviewers, and I quote, "I like it when you like this, Daddy, I like it when you scrambling and scraping for shit. Now, I'll be the first one to
What
say
the
that this is
fuck?
out of context, as the interviewer was literally looking for something near the interview table and they were all drinking. But that sounds so terribly bad. But perhaps the most notorious instance of 50 Cent alluding to these rumors was a post he made on his Instagram with a picture of Diddy riding a bike with the caption, "You know there ain't no seat on that bike, right?" He wasn't the only one joking about it either, as comedian Cat Williams also made references.
All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy been wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
While this stuff was unheard of to most people,
crazy.
for a small minority, it was basically an open secret. In the early 2020s, Diddy was enjoying a bit of a resurgence in popularity, putting out new music, and even starting a new lawsuit against Sean John to try and reclaim his share of the company. The man was a billionaire by this point, but in late 2023, the overture to his ultimate downfall torpedoed any chance his career had to be revived. Cassie Ventura, one of Diddy's ex-partners and assigned artist who had known him since 2005 when she was 19 years old, alleged that he plied her with drugs, beat her, and compelled her to have intercourse with a series of male prostitutes, all while Diddy recorded it. On top of that, Cassie also claims that in 2018, when their relationship was close to its end, Diddy broke into her house and violated her. In response, Diddy's lawyer claimed that Cassie was a blackmailer, demanding $30 million in exchange for her silence. This was countered by Cassie's lawyer, who claimed Diddy was the one who offered the money, and Cassie refused to take it. According to Cassie, not only did Diddy frequently assault her and ask her to carry his illegal firearm for him, he had previously dangled a friend of Cassie's over a balcony on the 17th floor of a hotel and blew up someone's car. This is way beyond a domestic violence accusation. The man is moving like the IRA, and apparently he's been doing it for 3 decades unpunished. This friend eventually spoke out. Fashion designer Brianna Bongolan, who not only confirmed what Cassie had alleged, but added that she'd been forcibly fed drugs. I can't really get into details about some of these incidents since it would probably get this video destroyed by YouTube, but it's from Cassie that we get the first public mention of the freak off. In the aforementioned instances where Diddy made her get with other men while he watched, which took place multiple times over the course of years in high-end hotels and in Diddy's mansions, people would be wearing costumes and masquerade masks, some real eyes wide shut type stuff. To make it all worse, Cassie thought she managed to delete the videos, but Diddy made it clear for her that he still had access to all of them, going as far as to flaunt it when they were on a plane, showing it to her and making her watch.
Holy God, what are you showing me? Come on!
All of these would be just claims, if not for one specific incident. The 2016 freak-off, which culminated in Diddy punching Cassie in the face and giving her a black eye. After Diddy fell asleep, Cassie snuck out of the room, only for him to wake up and chase her, which was caught on CCTV. I don't think I can actually show the video, given that it shows Diddy brutally beating her, slamming her to the ground, and kicking her after she's down twice, and seemingly trying to drag her back into the bedroom. The attack was clearly not self-defense. Cassie was visibly holding 2 bags and trying to enter the elevator when a naked Diddy wearing nothing but socks and a towel walks in and starts the altercation. It wouldn't take long after Cassie's accusation in late 2023 for someone else to come forward. Joy Dickerson-Neal, who made the same set of allegations against Diddy: drugging, assaults of all kinds, and unconsensual recordings of her in vulnerable situations. This one had taken place over 10 years before Cassie's, as Joy claimed she had first met Diddy in 1991, when she was a student at Syracuse University. I now understand why he was at colleges so often.
I want to welcome you all to Phoenix Club's first party of the fall semester.
Then there was a third claimant, Liza Gardner, who was just 16 years old when she claims that Diddy and singer Aaron Hall forcibly violated her. This was the third person now, and this time there wasn't even a public response from Diddy or his team. The snowball effect was now fully in motion. The degree of attention these allegations got brought more attention to a federal complaint made in February of 2022, when Rodney Jones Jr. alleged that he was hired by Diddy to produce records, when in actuality, he ended up being Diddy's mule for drugs and prostitutes, adding that Diddy would threaten him with physical harm if he didn't comply. A small detail here is that among the drugs Rodney was tasked with getting, GHB is listed, and he claimed that Diddy had special bottles of alcohol for women, which is is extremely concerning. Rodney also claims he personally witnessed Diddy sexually harassing actor Cuba Gooding Jr., although Cuba pushed him off. Since this complaint was filed, Jones has alleged that Diddy has sent people to harass his 8-year-old daughter, her mother, and all of his exes, presumably to pressure him into retracting his complaints. A very similar set of claims were made by Philip Pines, who was hired as an executive assistant, but ended up performing.
Bro thought he was the real-life Pablo Escobar.
The same kind of roles that Rodney Jones did. In Philip's case, he specified the kind of items he was tasked with getting, listed as follows: red lights, ice buckets, alcohol, joints, honey packs for male libido, baby oil, Astroglide, towels, illegal drugs, power banger machines, Plan B, Cialis.
And power banger sex machines? The fuck is that?
If that wasn't insane enough, he also had to remove evidence of illegal substances, condoms, toys, and clean stains of various fluids from all the sheets and pieces of furniture. That is obvious.
6000, that's my favorite, but can't go wrong with the classic 3000. It's old-fashioned, gas-powered, still gets the job done, starts right up. Yeah, if you keep the oil changed in it, of course.
Only after the party was finished, although he remarked that they could go on for days. Following the claims of Cassie, Joy, and Liza, a fourth unnamed woman spoke out, claiming she was trafficked and violated by Diddy and 3 friends of his when she was just 17 years old and in high school, while he was 34. Unlike the previous cases, this one forced Diddy to release a proper statement addressing the public, where he says, "Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation, and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth." At this point, while Cassie had settled her matter with Diddy, the other accusations were all stacking up at such a pace that Diddy gave up on another lawsuit he was in as a plaintiff, accusing the parent company of his alcoholic beverage.
Bro, this has literally just been like just rap sheet after rap sheet after rap sheet after crime after crime
brands of racial discrimination against him. This was done, presumably, so his legal team could exclusively focus on figuring out how to stop the unrelenting allegations against him. But at this point, it was like trying to mop away the ocean. The next one was an accusation not against Diddy, but his son, Christian King Combs, for assault. But it is relevant to Diddy given the accuser, Grace, describes her time working as a yacht deckhand for Diddy as a constant rotation of suspected sex workers and A-list celebrities, such as rapper French Montana and Cuba Gooding Jr. Once again, there's the mention of laced alcohol here as well. Then we have Crystal McKinney, accusing Diddy of spiking her beverage and forcing her to perform various acts. April Lampros, a college student who claimed to have been victimized 4 times by him and had at least one of them recorded without her consent or knowledge. Dawn Richard, a former member of 2 of Diddy's musical groups, claimed she personally saw Diddy throw a scalding hot pan at Cassie Ventura, as well as seeing multiple other girls who looked underage and or lethargic being violated at his parties. Talia Graves, a girlfriend of one of the executives at Diddy's record label, claimed she was drugged, had her head slammed on a table, was violated by Diddy and one of his bodyguards, and then hit until she lost consciousness. An anonymous woman also claimed she was forced to ingest ketamine, violated while unconscious, and woke up with bruises and bite marks. An anonymous man claimed to have been drugged and violated by Diddy as well, along with several other men. It's at this point that the majority of the accusations start coming from anonymous people. An employee at a Macy's department store claimed Diddy and 3 of his bodyguards accosted him at gunpoint when the store was empty and compelled him to perform sexual favors for him while calling him anti-white racial epithets. A security officer in New Jersey who took a job from Diddy claimed he was drugged and violated in a truck. A woman who went to a promotional party for one of Biggie Smalls' music videos all the way back in 1995 claimed to have been struck and violated by Diddy in a bathroom. Another man claimed to have had his privates inspected by Diddy at one of his parties in 1996 when he was just 16. There's also a man who claimed to have been violated by Diddy in 2005 when he was just 10 years old, a girl named Billy who claimed she was assaulted by him when she was 14 and 15, and the list quite literally goes on and on and on. Men, women, unconscious due to drugs or completely awake, some held at gunpoint, some held down by bodyguards, some were artists or employees of his, some were random people, some were adults, some were minors, some were immediately let go after the attack, some were held for days, some had their attacks recorded for blackmail, some were witnessed by bystanders who did nothing, some were victimized only by Diddy, some were victimized by several others as well. As far as the names of other perpetrators, his sons, Christian and Justin, are explicitly accused of criminal activity. At this point, there were 66 claimants, and the stories are grueling to the point that even if the majority of them aren't real, if 10% of them are, it's egregious to nightmarish proportions. It's as if Diddy watched Salo and decided to just make it real. There were two other notable names besides Cuba Gooding Jr. that also popped.
Man is guilty. This is in the 60s, 7. Okay, I'm sorry. This is fucked. Not the time. My bad.
Up in the allegations. The first one was Drewski, but for a variety of reasons, this one seems very unlikely to be true. And later on, Drewski verified an alibi that showed him to be in another state entirely when these events allegedly took place. The other name, however, has raised more eyebrows.
Nah, Jay-Z is definitely dirty, bro. He's got crazy dirt.
Rapper Jay-Z. Not only had Jay-Z maintained a relatively close relationship with Diddy for 3 decades by the time these accusations all came out, but he has some pretty questionable things in his own past. For starters, there is a somewhat substantiated theory that alleges Jay-Z could have met Beyonce when she was 16 and he was 28. In 2 different interviews from 2007,
it's not alleged, bro. Bro, he signed Beyonce when she was 16 to his label. She turned 18 and they're dating. Like, bro, okay, I know they say that, everyone says that, but bro, we all know what that means. We dude, we all fucking know what that means. It happens in the biggest industries, it happens in the smallest ways, in your hometown, it happens everywhere. We all know that one motherfucker. You know what I mean? He was like, oh, we were just friends, associates, and then she turned 18. We're like, heck, might as well date. As soon as you're 18, like we all know that motherfucker.
Says he met her 10 years prior, and that he'd met her as soon as she started recording, both of which match perfectly to 1997 when she released her first single and was 16 years old. Although Beyonce has since given some different answers regarding when they met and started dating, placing it later on between the years of 18 and 20, she has also said that he taught her how to be a woman, which led many to speculate about grooming. But regardless of Jay-Z's extensive history as a Diddy associate and the speculations regarding Beyonce, the lawsuit that named him was withdrawn, although the plaintiff maintained her story. With this many cases mounting and the CCTV video of Diddy beating Cassie,
I'll say this now, chat. Mark my words, bro. You can look back on a time capsule and it's like he was right, like the Simpsons type shit. Jay-Z's case will be on the news someday. It'll leak somehow, and it'll be bigger than Diddy's.
there was no amount of money that could bury the story completely. So naturally, Diddy's strategy shifted. In May 2024, he released a public statement apologizing for what he did to Cassie.
So difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you gotta do that.
He looks weird as hell here. Looks like a Diddy stunt double.
I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
The way he's talking.
I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
He's staring.
I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy.
You should went to jail acting. This is literally like the rapper or like celebrity that's not really an actor, and they put him in like a movie or like a scene. Like they're trying their best act, but you can tell them they're not like an actual actor. An acting job, and you get him to the Greek fake acting.
Ask God for His mercy and grace.
All right, you're gonna say I'm gonna ask God for His mercy and grace, and you're gonna stare off into the distance. Ask God for His mercy and grace. Looks back into the camera.
I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness.
Got to do with the
I'm truly sorry.
I'll let you be the judge of how sincere this apology really was, but one thing that's worth noting is that he emphasizes that he addresses exclusively the actions in the video, meaning he acknowledged none of Cassie's other claims. At this point, this entire situation had grown to much more than claims of being a serial creep, as based off many of the allegations, there was an entire network of perpetrators and enablers that either looked the other way or aided Diddy and his team to continue hosting freak-offs, where blatantly illegal activities took place. Eventually, talks began of racketeering charges, which meant there was a possibility that the RICO Act could be invoked against Diddy. And that's about as extreme as investigations can get, as RICO basically allows law enforcement to go through your entire life and investigate anyone who's associated with you, not to mention potentially charging them. In late 2024, there were reports of an additional 120 lawsuits that were going to be filed against Diddy, with alleged victims as young as 9 and 14 years old. Now, this next part may sound hard to believe, or sound like parts of baseless conspiracy theories, but given that cases like that of Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Savile exist, the possibility can't be ruled out that Diddy was running a sex trafficking operation, especially since up to 25 of the alleged victims were minors. Due to the considerable flight risk he posed, among his history of bribing and manipulating others to protect himself from convictions, Diddy was ordered to be held in federal custody without bail. It's really hard to overstate the scale of this case, as his properties were raided and searched not by the police, not by the state police, not even by the FBI, but instead by the Department of Homeland Security, and their findings during the raids were even more shocking. DHS turned up with 1,000 bottles of baby oil, ketamine, ecstasy, GHB, 3 AR-15s with obliterated serial numbers,
oh
ammo,
my
a drum
god,
set.
dude, holy, and this motherfucker for everything, we know this now, only got 4 fucking years in jail. The fucking obliterated serial number ARs, that should be enough, you know what I mean?
And further evidence which matched the testimonies of Cassie Ventura and Rodney Jones. His lawyer, the poor guy tasked with defending this dude, was grilled on what the purpose of these items could possibly be. To which he said, "1 bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. Neither do we." However damning all of this looked, in reality, Diddy's charges looked pretty thin. 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, 2 counts of sex trafficking, and 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, all of them being felonies. Because of this, his lawyer claimed that having Homeland
the guns, the drugs,
Security carry out the raids was a gross overuse of military force. But I think he's just saying that because he's not the one that has to walk into the Diddy dungeon with the $800 industrial grade power bangers. I'd want to be strapped with a BFG from Doom to do that. Unsurprisingly, Diddy pled not guilty, and his lawyer expressed he fully intended to fight these charges all the way to the end. Although he repeatedly motioned for bail, it was also repeatedly denied, and he remained in custody while the trial went on. As his options became increasingly dire, Diddy's lawyer resorted to suggesting that his prosecution was racially motivated, which was quickly shut down as this was obviously not the case. To give you an idea of just how bad it got, another one of Diddy's
power bangers, yeah.
Lawyers actually quit his job, although he cited attorney-client privilege so that he wouldn't have to explain his reasons. He said it was as a consequence of discussions with the other lawyer, saying, "Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs." In what is tantamount to an act of desperation, Diddy tried to simply delay his trial, but even that failed, as he wasn't able to further stifle the court proceedings. On the 5th of May, the trial actually began, and it was supposed to last for about 2 months before a conviction was reached, and the expectation for the sentence was decades in prison. Given Diddy was already 55 by the time this was going down, there was a good chance he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. The first witness they called in was Israel Flores, an LAPD officer who was working as a security guard at the hotel where the incident between Diddy and Cassie took place. Israel alleged that after
I love watching courtroom camera, like courtroom vids sometimes. You guys ever watch those? Like courtroom freakouts are my favorite, low key.
Their altercation had gone down, Diddy approached him and offered him money to keep quiet about what had happened. The second witness was Daniel Phillip, who, from what I can gather, was a male stripper who was paid to engage in intercourse with Cassie in front of Diddy, something he supposedly did a few times over the course of a year. During these events, Diddy would attempt to conceal his identity, but he didn't do it well enough, as Daniel recognized his voice. Despite his payments being made by Cassie, it was clearly Diddy who was in charge of the situation at all times, directing their actions and subtly threatening Daniel when they were done, presumably to keep him quiet about everything. Later on, another person who had indirectly witnessed the incident with Cassie testified. Security supervisor Eddie Garcia alleged that Diddy was desperate to get the sole copy of the video and paid $100,000 in cash to the security team and made them sign an NDA. Fortunately, his efforts to conceal this incident failed. During this stage of the proceedings—
Wait, so did the security team and the people he paid off that are just now coming out, are they not getting in trouble?
Diddy's lawyer once again started to make motions regarding the racial profile of the jury, implying that they were being selected to produce a racially discriminatory result in trial. But the judge, an Indian man, denied it. After these first two, there were apparently another 32 witnesses called in, testifying to the government's claim that Diddy weaponized his legal businesses and his wealth to keep his victims silent and complicit. One of these witnesses was actually rapper Kid Cudi, you know, the guy who made "The Lonely Boner Seems to Free His Load at Night," who allegedly had his car firebombed by Diddy, and who added that Sean Combs had broken into his house a few weeks prior to the incident. Another person, a former assistant of Diddy's, also corroborated the story, saying that Diddy compelled her at gunpoint to accompany him to his confrontation with Kid Cudi. A jury of 12 people reviewed the evidence, which included extensive text messages, videos, and receipts to evaluate whether the allegations held water or not. It's also relevant that Diddy opted not to testify about anything, which he did so that the prosecution couldn't cross-examine him and get him to self-incriminate. Still, even if this strategy paid off, he was still expected to serve at the very least 15 years for his charges. Things were moving along as expected for a while, but 2 months after the proceedings began, they came to their expected end in a less than ideal position. In an unexpected turn of events, after a 13-hour session that resulted in a split decision from the jury, Diddy was found innocent on the counts of racketeering and sex trafficking, and was only found guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. He apparently collapsed to the ground, kneeling in gratitude, celebrating the result of the trial. While many of the members of the jury were convinced of the narrative put forth by the accusers, the majority had their minds swayed by text message exchanges between Diddy and some of the victims, where the victims could be seen expressing enthusiasm for the freak-offs. That is, in spite of video evidence of Diddy beating Cassie and his history of attempted manipulation, evidence tampering, and bribery. Now keep in mind, this result did not automatically exonerate him of all of the other lawsuits brought forth against him. But the thing is, those are civil suits, not criminal ones, and he has no obligation to acknowledge any wrongdoing by settling them. In the wake of this result from the jury, Cassie sent a letter to the judge, which read this: "If there is one thing I have learned from this experience, it is that victims and survivors will never be safe. Although I can hope for justice and accountability, I have come to not trust anything. I hope that your decision considers the truths at hand that the jury failed to see. For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapter in my life. I testified that from age 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illnesses, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all again. Intercourse became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his good graces. I testified that I learned to read Sean Combs' signals, knowing that when he spoke of freak-offs, he was demanding them, and that refusing meant punishment, losing my car, my phone, or worse. He controlled every part of my livelihood and threatened to destroy my reputation by leaking videos, a threat he repeated often. His power over me eroded my independence and sense of self until I felt I had no choice but to submit. When he believed I had wronged him or was not sufficiently responsive, he also threatened people around me and those close to me, including my family. I regularly worried that displeasing him meant putting my family and friends' safety at risk. Over the nearly 11 years we were together, Sean Combs would hit me, punch me, stomp on my face, pull my hair, and throw my body to the ground against the wall. The jury saw pictures of bruises on my back from Combs kicking me and saw the deep gash over my eye he caused me when he slammed me into a bed frame. During my time with Combs, I was in a constant state of hypervigilance, as I was always anticipating demands for sex acts or otherwise fearing retribution for any perceived slight. My descent into substance abuse was directly correlated with his increased control over my body, my money, my freedom, and my free will. I used those drugs to push through the horrifying sex acts he demanded and to numb myself to the physical pain and emotional turmoil I was constantly in. While the defense attorneys at trial suggested that my time with Combs was akin to a great modern love story, nothing could be further from the truth. The horrors I endured drove me to have thoughts of taking my own life, ones I almost followed through on, if not for my family's intervention and urging that I seek professional care. I have been to rehab and have taken part in dozens of types of therapy modalities to confront, compartmentalize, and cope with the horrific memories of abuse that I endured for nearly 10 years. While what he did to me is always present, I am slowly learning how to live my life free of the fear and horrors I endured, and in doing so, am fully devoted to my husband and my children. I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis, and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I have in fact moved my family out of the New York area and am keeping as private and quiet as I possibly can because I am so scared that if he walks free, his first actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up at trial. His defense attorneys claim he is a changed man, and he wants to mentor abusers. I know firsthand what real mentorship means, and this disgusts me. He is not being truthful. I know that who he was to me, the manipulator, the aggressor, the abuser, the trafficker, is who he is as a human. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is. When I came out with my allegations in my civil case, he flatly denied them again and again. It was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words in my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freak-offs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know that is the truth, and his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. Reliving in detail the events and truths described throughout the trial and this letter causes me tremendous emotional pain. I am trying, with all that I am, to move on. I hope that your sentencing decision reflects the strength it took for victims of Sean Combs to come forward. I hope that your decision considers the many lives that Sean Combs has upended with his abuse and control.
How can you read that and be like, yeah, 4 years?
Still, the two charges he was found guilty of carried a maximum sentence of 10 years each, meaning Diddy could still end up spending a decent amount of time in jail. However, a legal expert speculated that it could very well be the case that Diddy end up spending no time at all in prison. The sentencing was expected to only happen on October 3rd, meaning that they were a few months away from a proper sentence at this point, during which Diddy's team contacted none other than Donald Trump himself to try and get a presidential pardon. Fortunately, this pardon was not given, with the White House initially refusing to comment, then later on, Trump saying that despite having previously met Diddy and getting along with him, they didn't know each other too well, and that Diddy had since become hostile toward him. Eventually, the time came for the actual sentencing. The prosecution wanted more than 11 years, while the defense wanted just 14 months. But the judge ultimately settled on 50 months, or right around 4 years for Diddy's charges. This was pretty shocking for the victims and the public at large, and worse yet was the fact that, while his sentence was being served, Diddy would be allowed to appeal both his convictions and his sentence. This means that even if he did get 4 years here, his sentence could be shortened, if not completely overturned, if his convictions come undone. At this point, the worst imaginable outcome was becoming a real possibility, if not fast approaching, as the judge urged Diddy to use his second chance to redeem himself by being a champion and uplifting Black and brown communities. Sean Combs is currently set to be released by December 2028, a sentence he requested to serve at a low-security facility called Fort Dix. This would be funny if it wasn't so horrific. The request was granted, and as it currently stands, we're a little over 3 years away from Diddy being free again. Given that over the previous decades, he has committed multiple crimes and consistently gotten away with it, only to go on to reoffend, it wouldn't be surprising if he's already orchestrating his next freak-off from inside the walls of Fort Dix. Lord have mercy on all of us. I've been Turkey Tom. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me